So let's have a look at the Mosaic monologues. I know you and I worked on this together. You've been kind of like the director and I've been like the producer in the background. But outside of our relationship and working on this and our wonderful 6 writers who we'll talk about in a wee while, the idea starts earlier, doesn't it? So you were with Writers Mosaic on retreat in Italy.
Yeah, so I was on this retreat, which was fantastic. It was on the drive from Bologna Airport to where we were staying, and I was talking to Colin about how we get the sort of dramatic versions of stories that writers could really work with Writers Mosaic to get them down, and it felt that monologues would be the way forward. It was about a 2-hour drive, so we just riffed on that about, well, if there were monologues, what form would they take? How would we then present them to the world? And we just talk about audio, the importance of audio, how actually we consume content differently now, sort of sat around headphones on as we are today. I just felt that it would be a great medium for us to use in order to do that. And then the monologue is such a brilliant form. It can be incredibly powerful. There's a long history of some incredible pieces of writing that have took monologue form. By the end of the journey, the seed had been planted, and then by the end of the retreat, it was sort of like, oh, well, actually, we could pick 5, 6 writers from up and down the country. We could ask them to write a 10-minute monologue, record it, and put it out on the website with the RLF, with Writers Mosaic. So it was really excited, but then it all went quiet for a while. And I'm sure Colin was working furiously in the background. We met and we had a lovely afternoon in Leeds, I remember, and sat and drank a cup of tea and sort of come up with a definitive plan and a real green light to go ahead and bring this project to life. It was incredibly exciting. And one of the things that I thought was incredibly refreshing from that conversation we had in Leeds was you really saying we need to give our writers the freedom to tell the stories that they want to tell. Let them tell a story about anything at all. And in fact, we will love to hear stories that we haven't heard before or that aren't the usual fare of what people think when they think of global majority writers. And it was like, write as a Western, write as a sci-fi, write as a rom-com, write whatever you want. I think it really helped that we gave the writers that brief.
Let's go through each one a little bit, actually, because we're talking about the range of what we've got. So Mara Menzies is an incredible storyteller. She spent half her time in Africa, and her piece was actually recorded. I couldn't get her to come and be in the studio because she was away. And yet she's created this incredible piece about fear trying to dominate a woman's life. And her natural sort of storytelling abilities really sort of shone through with this one.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Straight away, I was like, this is a really interesting way to get into this story about the patriarchy, about how women feel about themselves and how fear is acting and its manipulations and its charm and its evilness and all of these sort of things. So they were all in this sort of first draft of this story. Yeah. It was amazing.
Then we've got Connor Allen, who used to be the Children's Laureate for Wales. He's an actor as well. He produced this piece about a young man getting on a bus.
I just loved the poetic nature of his writing and what he was producing. And you're right, there's this incredible sort of twist and reveal that comes in the story, doesn't it? That suddenly you're just like, oh, wow. And again, very similar to Mara, he comes at something that we're all sort of aware of, or that's in our consciousness, but it comes at it from such a sort of left field, different angle. And then when that thing's revealed, like, oh, actually, this is what's,
because it looks just like a lad gets on a bus. There's a girl he kind of who takes a shine in his eye. He kind of wants to go and talk to her. They're listening to a bit of hip hop together, and you think that that's it, you know.
yeah.
And then whoosh, Tamina's piece. Well, I mean, Tamina is just again just wonderful to work with in the studio. I found, and again, there's a funny story about Tamina. It's such a lovely piece. It's very ordinary in a way, and I love the ordinariness of it. It's a woman who has shelved her kind of creative life in order to kind of raise her family, and she's looking for a way back in.
You know, I've known Tamina for many years, and she's such a powerful poet and spoken word artist. And that was a fascinating journey with Tamina as well, because she was so close. We did have a number of meetings, face-to-face meetings, and we sat, and actually the first one was just about the things that she was interested in talking about and the stories that she wanted to tell, and just, you know, landing on one of the many things that she was interested in talking about, but finding the one that she felt most passionate about. And she's a mother herself, so it felt like something that she had a real lived experience of. And then it was about, you know, lots of discussions about form and how to do it. But again, like you say, it was sort of set in a very ordinary world, where it resonates and it's so powerful and it's so sort of insightful.
And then Shahid's piece, I mean, you tell us about that. It's a hospital drama in the 50s. I just couldn't believe the range of what we were getting here. And of course, Shahid is a theatre writer himself, I think. And it was really interesting because he's deaf. So
Yeah.
it's very interesting working with him in the studio in that way. But maybe, you know, talk about working with Shahid, because two theatre writers together. How did that go for
Yeah,
you?
so
Yeah.
so Shy that always had been on my radar as a sort of fellow Northern scribe for many years. Like you say, it's sort of set in a hospital sanitarium. I aren't quite sure how those sort of what the correct phrasing is of those places in the 50s. It sort of really challenges you to re-examine what current thought is, because the way he sort of set it up, it really does bring you into the present day and really provokes this thought about, well, okay, what is current thinking on that? What was it then, and how has it changed, and where are we now, and how's this going to change, and all of this sort of stuff. Really exciting. And then these really fantastic characters that inhabit this world that he's created.
What's revealed in this story is not, it's just something I didn't know as well. And of course,
Yeah,
your mind can't help but turn towards One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, the Ken Kesey
yeah,
book. And I didn't realize that in America, this kind of carried on an awful lot longer. And then we've got two left. We've got Nabila, which is a very chatty piece, isn't it? It's kind of it took a bit of work because she wrote such a big piece in the first place, and we had to kind of like narrow it down, and that took quite a lot
yeah.
to kind of find the thread that was through it. Maybe talk about that process of kind of bringing something large down to a more sort of, you know, focused sort of telling.
Firstly, I need to apologise because to Nabila, because it was a bum steer from me, because I was, when we were sort of, she was thinking of the first draft and saying how long, and I was saying, don't worry about it, just tell me the story, we'll figure that out as we go along. Um, there was when you and Colin read them and said, well, look, the word counts on these are sort of huge and stuff like that. And I knew there was lots of bits in there that were really important to Nabila to talk about, but it was sort of, look, you know, again, it's sort of the professionalism of these guys is there is a remit and there is a sort of, you know, it has to unfold over a certain time as a recording, as something people are going to experience and stuff like that. And she was incredibly professional about that and killed some of her babies in order to bring that down and hone it down. But I think it benefits from that. It wasn't just how do you operate as a person of color in a white world. It was how do you operate as a woman in a patriarchy, and about operating within our own worlds and the wonderfully harassed character. I was thinking, I would love to be sat at that table and eat that food that's being prepared by this incredibly harassed character. It sounded so sort of delicious as well. So it was good.
That leads very nicely into kind of Testament's piece, the final, our sixth piece, as it were, which is kind of a guy leaving the country because the world, this country has gone to pot. Basically, that's the implication. And then he has this kind of Blakean encounter.
Straight away from the first conversation I had with Testament, he was like, I've been looking into Blake and I'm fascinated by it. And I'm sort of been, examining different works of his and stuff like this. So he was very much in that headspace as we went into the project. And it was, he'd always wanted to do something that was Blakean. So he was sort of, can I do this? I said, you can do whatever you want, mate. If that's what you want to write about, go for it. And yeah, he come back with this really fascinating, obviously, but there was this melancholy and sadness about it because of the situation this person's in and the beautiful way, the poetic nature of Testament's writing, that he really gives you a sense of profound sadness of what this young man is going through and how he's ended up where he has ended up, and then this encounter that he has in an airport lounge. Just that's an elevator pitch for the first act of a movie. Listen to these amazing sort of stories. They're bite-sized, so you can sort of do them over various things. To hear their beautiful voices bring these characters to life, is fantastic.